Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera to Sir Johnny. Today, our group want to present about welding in building construction. But before I present, I want to introduce our group. This is Farhad, Muhammad Syahril, Elia, and Abu Sufyan. Okay, my introduction is welding service in building construction. Welding is a process that uses fusion to connect metals together. It is the strongest and most durable way to join metals, and it's used in many industries. In the building construction industry, welders are skilled tradespersons who are involved in every phase of construction. Welders use a variety of welding process in the shop or on site. Some of the best known processes include shielded arc welding, flux core arc welding, and submerged arc welding. Each welding process serves a separate need and purpose performed by a welder that specializes in the particular type of welding. Here are some of the services that welders provide to the building construction industry. And the structural and non-structural system welding. A welder works with a construction contractor to connect the steel I-beams, columns, trusses, and footers that make up the structural framework of a building. These components are cut to size, fitted into position with a crane or construction jack and welded together to support the floor walls and roof of a building. A welder can also weld non-structural metal building components. These items include tiles, handrails, bridges between rooms, floor joists, steel framing studs, firewall, and other components that are too large and integral to the building design to bolt into position. And then electric. A welder works closely with pipe fitter and to install and connect together steel tubing called electrical conduit according to an architect plans. This system carries electricity from a power source outside of a building to every part of the building that needs electricity. This electricity conduit holds the wires together and protects them from damage. Electrical conduit is cut to size bent to conform to the dimension of a room and then welded together by a welder. The electrical conduit is then securely attached to the walls start and a room and run between power supply box. And then once the electrical conduit is shaped, welded and attached electrical wires are pushed through it to electrical box where an electrician can connect the wiring to switches and plugs to electrify the system. Plumbing system welding. Welder works closely with a plumber to cut, weld, and install water supply pipes and water pipes to each room of a building that will have running water. The water supply pipes bring potable water from a city or rural water supply system and pipe it throughout the building. And number two, the wastewater pipes are installed to remove used water from the building and pipe it into a drainage and sewer system. Water supply pipes and water pipes are cut to size, welded together for strength and durability, and buried underground to keep them secure. Okay. And heating system welding. A welder works with a pipe fitter to install a fuel circulation system that carries natural gas throughout a building for heating and cooking purpose. These fuel pipes are cut to size and placed within the walls and floors of a residential or commercial building according to the architectural drawings for the building. An auxiliary ventilation system is installed alongside the fuel system to capture exhaust gas and expel it from the building. Fuel and ventilation system pipes are welded together to conform the specific shape of a room and prevent leaks. For expert welding for any of this building process, contact 3B Welding LLC. This welder can offer their experience and expertise whether you are constructing a residential or a commercial building. Call them or contact them online and they will make a site visit to make you and review your architectural blueprints, drawings, and specifications. With the expertise, you will have a beautiful building that will serve you for many years. I want to pass to Syahril.
Diagram. Okay. Yeah, this is type of welding that used in building construction. For the first diagram is submerged metal arc welding, or we can call it SMO. SMO is mainly used for welding steel structures. And the second diagram is flux cord arc welding, or we can call it FSO. FSO is considered more convenient than its submerged arc counterpart. This technology is widely employed in fabricating structure steel as well as heavy equipment repair. And the third diagram is gas tungsten arc welding, or we can call it JITO. JITO, also known as TIG welding, is crucial for its compatibility with various metals including stainless steel, aluminum, bronze, and copper. And for the last type of welding is gas metal arc welding, or we can call it GMO. GMO, popularly known as MIG welding, is employed for both structural and non-structural purpose. Application-specific welding systems employed in the construction industry include stud welders such as Pro-Weld Arc and pipe welders such as the Pipeworks welding system. That's all for the types of welding. that used in welding construction. Then I pass it to Ilya.
So for the explanation of basic concept for that type of welding, in the four type of welding, number one is submerged metal arc welding, flux core arc welding, gas tungsten arc welding, gas metal arc welding. So for the first explanation, basic concept is for submerged metal arc welding. Next, uh, for basic concept of submerged arc welding is a common arc welding process that involves the formation of an arc between a continuously feed electrode and a blanket of powdered flux generate a protective gas shield and a slag, and may also be used to add alloying elements to the weld pool, which protect the weld zone. For the secondary type of welding, Leaks core arc welding is uses heat generated by an electric arc to fuse base metal in the weld joint area. This arc is struck between the metallic workpiece and the continuously feed tubular cord consumable filler wire with both the wire and the metallic workpiece melting together to form a weld joint. For the third type basic of welding, next, the gas tungsten arc welding is an electric arc welding process that produces an arc between a non-consumable electrode and the work to be welded. The weld is shelved from the atmosphere by shielding gas that form an envelope around the weld area. The last type of welding is gas metal arc welding is an arc welding process in which the source is an arc formed between consumable metal electrode and the workpiece with externally supplied gases filled of gas media inert such as argon and helium. So that's all. I will pass it to Farhad.
So for the advantage and disadvantage of the welding types. The first welding machine is submerged metal arc welding, known as SMAW. The advantage of this welding machine is it prevents hot materials from splattering and splashing onto workers. This machine provides a low risk for heat that will keep workers safe from burns and accidents. Other than that, this machine is relatively simple equipment. New workers could learn easily on using this welding machine because of the simple using method. Next, submerged metal arc welding can be used in a wide range of environments, including autos, in fabrication shop, on pipelines and refineries, ship and bridges, and many more. In that, workers working on a building construction can use this welding machine because it is flexible. More of that, this welding machine is well suited for a wide variety of commonly used metals and alloys. This machine could weld variety of materials that make it a multi-purpose welding machine. SMAW also can be powered with gasoline or diesel in remote areas without electrical connection. This will make workers to easily use them when there is no electricity surroundings. Lastly, the welding machine is not sensitive to wind and draft. Workers will have a smooth welding when in a windy weather. Next, the disadvantage. Firstly, SMAW is not automated and thus usually has lower productivity rate than automated processes. Next, the deposition rate are typically lower than other welding processes. Third, this welding machine requires more operator skill than many other processes. More of that, SMAW is not suitable for metals that are reactive including titanium, columbium, and zirconium. The welding machine also may spatter and require extra cleanup after the welding work done. The second machine is flux core arc welding. The advantage of this welding machine is it offers greater penetration, which is good for working with thicker joints. It allows the welder to travel in all directions and hold the torch in a number of directions. Flux core arc welding does not need a high skill level to perform. After a welder learns how to properly set up the equipment, the technique for actual welding is relatively simple and easy to learn. Other than that, FCAW is an energy-saving welding machine. Measured data show that the solid cold welding wire arc welding with SMAW power consumption is 1 over 3, and the power consumption of flux core arc only solid welding wire 1 over 2. Next, FCAW is good in welding quality. Flux core arc welding with gas and slag combined protection, metallurgical effect more freely, can remove impurities, purify the weld metal, prevent air intrusion, and improve the oxidation effect. Lastly, the chances of porosity when using this welding machine are very low. Next, the disadvantage. The disadvantage of flux core arc welding machine is it requires feeder which is difficult to move and can sometimes be a maintenance or a repair burden. More of that, this welding machine needs shielding gas with some wires, so welding in windy condition can be difficult. Other than that, FCAW machine have increased chance of lack of fusion. If parameters and welding technique is not controlled, it is very easy to carry a very large paddle, which can greatly increase the chances for lack of fusion. Fourth, the gun of the flux core arc welding machine is difficult to get into tight places. Finally, the welding process using FCAW produce smoke, which is hazardous to the welder. The smoke could blur the welder vision and may cause danger to their health. So the third machine is gas tungsten arc welding, known as GTAW. The advantage of this welding machine is arc welding tungsten arc welding machine are stronger because they can penetrate deeper and have higher corrosion resistance. This could make the structure of a building stronger and solid. Other than that, the welding results are very clean. It do not need to be clean because they do not produce any slag. Next, the gas flow of the gas tungsten welding machine makes the area around the metal liquid not contain air, so it prevents fouling by nitrogen and oxygen. More of that, the welding process can be observed easily. This is because there are not much smoke arises. This could make the welder have a clear vision on the material that are weld. Lastly, the deformation of the material weld is rare because the heat center is very small. The disadvantage for this welding machine is the first disadvantage of gas tungsten welding machine is the method of using difficulty. GTAW is often considered the most difficult welding process to master and requires a lot of skill from the operator. Secondly, the speed of the welding process using this welding machine is slow. GTAW requires relatively slow travel speeds and has a lower deposition rate than other processes. Next, GTAW is non-automation welding machine. It is difficult to automate and typically requires manual application. Other than that, GTAW is a high-cost welding machine. Due to its slower speed and non-automation, it ends up more being expensive process than any many other option. Lastly, the design of the burner makes it not very convenient to weld parts at acute angle. So the last welding machine is gas metal arc welding. The advantage for gas metal arc welding is high deposition efficiency when used in certain transfer modes. All electrode weight is deposited into the weld, whereas with other process must account for stop loss. Furthermore, the process can be used on thin materials with relative ease if properly set. GTAW can also be used on thin materials, but in many cases such as auto body, GMAW wins. Next, the production rate is high due to the factor since no slack is required to be removed and uses a continuous electrode. Other than that, with the parameters properly set for the application, anyone can weld after a very short amount of practice. This shows that GTAW machine is very easy to learn and use. Lastly, one of the electrode size can be used on various thickness of materials productively as compared to SMAW and GTAW. The disadvantage for this welding machine is it requires a wire feeder, which is difficult to move and can sometimes a maintenance or repair burden. Secondly, this welding machine needs shielding gas because the welding process is in a windy condition can be very difficult. Third, the no slack system so out of position welds are sometimes can be difficult. Other than that, the disadvantages of using this welding machine is increased chance of lack of fusion if parameters and welding technique is not controlled. Next, GMAW welding machine is a high cost compared to SMAW and FCAW. The cost is high because it offers a great result to the material weld and buying it is worth it. Lastly, the heat produced by this welding machine could make welders uncomfortable. In that, welders must wear extra thin clothes and gloves for using this welding machine. That's all for my presentation, and I will pass this presentation to my friends. Next is welding joints that can be found in building construction. First joint is T-joint. T-welding joints are formed when two pieces intersect at a 90-degree angle. This results in the edges coming together in the center of a plate or component in a T-shape. T-joints are considered to be a type of fillet weld, and they can be also be formed when a tube or a pipe is welded onto a base plate. T-joints are not usually prepared with groove unless the base metal is thick and welding on both sides cannot withstand the load that joint must support. A common defect that occurs with T-joints is lamellar tearing, which happens due to restriction experienced by the joint. To prevent this, welders will often place a stopper to prevent joint deformation. Next.
So for the corner joint have a similarity to T welding joints. However, the difference is the location of where the metal is positioned. In the T joint, it is placed in the middle where various corner joints meet in the corner in the area and open or closed manner forming L shape. The type of joint are among some of the most common in the sheet metal industry, such as in the construction of frames, box, and other applications.
Lap joint. Lap welding joints are essentially modified version of the wheel joint. They are formed when two pieces of metal are placed in overlapping pattern on top of each other. They are most commonly used to join two pieces with differing thickness together. Wheels can be made or one or both sides. Lap joint rarely used on thicker materials and are commonly used for sheet metal. Potential drawbacks to these types of welding joint include linear tearing or commotion due to overlapping material. However, as with anything, this can be prevented by using By using connect technique and modifying variables necessary.
Safe, Salam. Safety elements during the welding work. When performing any welding activity, it is critical to maintain high level of safety. Ignoring your PPE and safe working practice can have serious consequences, even resulting in fatalities. As a result, you should take the safety precaution listed below to keep yourself safe at work. Always wear your appropriate PPE, such as wear your welding helmet with side shield. Welding helmet can protect you from UV radiation, particle, debris, hot slag, and chemical burn. It's important that you wear the right lens shade for the work you are carrying out. Second, respirator. Respirator shield you from the fume and oxide produced by the welding process. Your respirator must be appropriate for the work you are doing. Fire rest. Wear your fire resistant clothing. Resistant clothing can protect you from heat, fire, and radiation created in the welding process and seal you from burns. Besides that, wear your ear protection. Ear protection protects you from noise hazard. It's important that you wear ear protection that is appropriate for the noise created in your workplace and use fire resistant ear muff if there is a risk of sparks or splatter entering the air. And wear your boots and gloves. Insulated, flame resistant gloves and rubber sole, steel toe cap, safety shoe shield you from electric shock, heat, fire, burn, and falling object. Besides that, you must receive appropriate training. Prior to starting any welding work, it is important that you receive adequate training in the use and safety of your work. E-learning courses provide an easy, cost-effective, and flexible training opportunity. Lastly, uh, ensure your workspace is free of flammable material. You should avoid keeping flammable materials in the vicinity of welding process as sparks, heat, and molten metal splatters produced in the welding process. That's all from our group. Thank you.
Sudah kan?